The date is April 2nd, 1989, and Wrestlemania 5 is being held at Trump Plaza in Atlantic City, New Jersey, with an attendance of over 18,000 passionate fans and VIPs. The atmosphere is electric, and the anticipation in the air is palpable. Among the marquee matches is the Intercontinental Championship bout between the reigning champion, the Ultimate Warrior, and the challenger Ravishing Rick Rude. Rude, with his chiseled physique and unparalleled arrogance, was at the zenith of his career. This match was much more than just a contest for a title. It was a showcase of Rude's ability to captivate audiences and solidify his status as one of the greatest villains in WWF history. Rude's entrance was a spectacle in itself. Adorned in his trademark airbrushed tights, he strutted to the ring with a swagger that exuded supreme confidence. As the bell rang, the crowd's roar was deafening. The match was a tour de force display of strength, skill, and cunning. Rude's in-ring psychology was masterful, as he manipulated the crowd and outwitted the Ultimate Warrior at every turn. With a controversial finish involving Bobby "The Brain" Heenan, Rude secured a shocking victory, capturing the Intercontinental Championship and cementing his place in the halls of professional wrestling history. But what about the man behind this mesmerizing performance? Richard Erwin Rude was born on December 7, 1958, in St. Peter, Minnesota, and he actually attended the same high school as Kurt Hennig, who was a close childhood friend. Rude was a standout athlete, excelling in wrestling and football. After high school, Rude attended Anoka Ramsey Community College in Coon Rapids, Minnesota. He graduated with a degree in physical education and continued to hone and sharpen his athletic skills. Rude then briefly worked as a bouncer and later even tried his hand at arm wrestling before transitioning to pro wrestling. Rick Rude's journey into the world of professional wrestling began under the watchful eye of legendary trainer Eddie Sharkey, the same mastermind who molded legends like Bob Backlund and the Road Warriors. In 1982, Rude came onto the scene as Ricky Rude, a babyface jobber. His first television appearance took place on the November 6, 1982, episode of Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, where Rude tasted the bitterness of defeat. Undeterred, he continued his quest for glory, starting with Vancouver's NWA, All-Star Wrestling, then moving on to Georgia Championship Wrestling, and finally the Memphis-based Continental Wrestling Association. The real transformation began on May 28, 1983, when Rude made his World Championship Wrestling debut, vanquishing Pat Rose with a stunning dropkick. By 1984, Rude had returned to Memphis, but this time he wasn't just Ricky Rude. He had evolved into the overconfident, arrogant heel known as Ravishing Rick Rude, under the management of the equally flamboyant Jimmy Hart. Rude's character included a signature routine where he would kiss a lucky female fan from the audience. His brash attitude and undeniable talent ignited a fierce rivalry with the legendary Jerry Lawler. But the drama didn't end there. He also clashed with his former partner, the formidable King Kong Bundy. Rude's career took another dramatic turn when he found himself in Jim Crockett Promotions, where he and an array of tag team partners took on the Road Warriors in a series of electrifying battles. Then, in December 1984, Rude stormed into Championship Wrestling from Florida under the guidance of Percy Pringle, and on January 16, 1985, he snatched the NWA Florida Southern Heavyweight Championship from Pez Whatley. Next up was World Class Championship Wrestling, where Rude made a dramatic entrance on October 18th. Instantly embroiled in fierce feuds with Kevin Von Erich and Chris Adams, Rude's star power was beginning to show even greater potential. And on November 4th, he won the NWA American Heavyweight Championship. The next year, Rude returned to Jim Crockett Promotions, teaming up with Manny Fernandez and their manager Paul Jones to clash with Wahoo McDaniel. The dynamic duo, known as the Awesome Twosome, captured the NWA World Tag Team Championship from the Rock and Roll Express on December 6, 1986, igniting an explosive feud. The rivalry raged on until April 1987, when Rude made his exit to join the World Wrestling Federation. Ravishing Rick Rude made his grand entrance into the WWF on Superstars of Wrestling on July 15, 1987, joining the infamous Bobby Heenan family. His first major conflict was with Heenan's former protege, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. After a fierce duel, Rude triumphed over Orndorff, at Madison Square Garden on November 24th. Rude then kicked off 1988 by challenging Hulk Hogan for the World Heavyweight Championship at the Boston Garden on January 9th. Though he didn't win the title, Rude was now in the big leagues, and he soon entered into one of his most iconic vendettas with Jake the Snake Roberts. Rude had a flashy pre-match routine where he'd remove his robe and taunt the crowd, usually calling them fat, out-of-shape sweat hogs, before kissing a woman selected by Heenan from the audience after his victory. Funny enough, Rude actually tried to get Jake's real-life wife, Cheryl, to participate in his routine, not realizing she was married to Roberts. Cheryl's rejection led to a heated moment where Rude grabbed her wrist and berated her, prompting Roberts to rush to her defense. In retaliation, Rude wore tights with Cheryl's likeness, leading to a dramatic showdown where Roberts stripped Rude down to a G-string, causing a wild censoring moment on TV. Throughout mid-1988, Rude continued his antics, including a memorable moment at the inaugural SummerSlam. During his match against the Junkyard Dog, Rude revealed a second pair of tights with Cheryl Roberts' face on them, enraging Jake, who attacked Rude, causing Junkyard Dog to be disqualified and giving Rude the win. The intense animosity between Rude and Roberts culminated in a Rude Awakening vs. DDT match on October 24th at Madison Square Garden, where Roberts emerged victorious. Their rivalry finally ended when Roberts pinned Rude after a DDT during the 1988 Survivor Series. Rude's next major brouhaha kicked off with the Ultimate Warrior at the 1989 Royal Rumble during a super pose down. The event ended dramatically, with Rude attacking Warrior with a metal pose bar, and then, with a little help from Bobby Heenan, Rude won the WWF Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship from Warrior at Wrestlemania 5, only to lose it back to him at SummerSlam due to interference from Roddy Piper. Rude's hostility then shifted to Piper, leading to a confrontation between their teams at the 1989 Survivor Series, where both men brawled to a double countout. This feud saw numerous matches, including a memorable steel cage match at Madison Square Garden on December 28th. In the summer of 1990, Rude resumed his conflict with the Ultimate Warrior, who was now the World Heavyweight Champion. Determined to take down Warrior, Rude adopted a more serious persona, including rigorous training and a new, shorter haircut. This ended in a steel cage match at SummerSlam 1990, where Warrior ultimately defeated Rude. Following this, Rude began a new beef with Big Boss Man, sparked by Heenan's degrading comments about Boss Man's mother. Rude backed up Heenan's insults, challenging Boss Man directly. He was supposed to be part of the Natural Disasters team at Survivor Series, but was replaced by Haku after being indefinitely suspended by Jack Tunney due to his comments about Boss Man's mother. In reality, Rude's departure from WWF was due to a dispute with owner Vince McMahon. After leaving the WWF, Rude tried to join the UWF. However, as he was still under contract with WWF, his former company sent a cease and desist order, preventing him from appearing on UWF television. Rude stayed out of the ring until May 18, 1991, when he wrestled at the TWA Spring Spectacular 2. He faced Paul Orndorff, but lost by disqualification. 2 months later, Rude had a brief stint with All Japan Pro Wrestling, before returning to WCW, where he appeared as the WCW Phantom at Halloween Havoc on October 27, 1991. Then, leading the Dangerous Alliance, Rude defeated Sting for the United States Heavyweight Championship on November 19, 1991, sparking a series of intense rivalries, notably with Ricky Steamboat. Their feud reached a peak when Steamboat endured a kayfabe broken nose in a dramatic altercation. A legitimate neck injury in December 1992 forced Rude to relinquish the United States Championship after a nearly 14-month reign, the second longest in the title's nearly 40-year history. Returning solo in April 1993, Rude sought to reclaim the title from Dustin Rhodes. After a draw in a 30-minute Iron Man match at Beach Blast on July 18th, they scheduled a best-of-3 series on Saturday night. Rude won the first match, but was then defeated by Rhodes twice in a row. Rude then shifted his focus to the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, and he went on to defeat Ric Flair for the title at Full Brawl in September 1993. However, due to WCW's withdrawal from the NWA, they lost the rights to use the championship. WCW then introduced their own title, the WCW International World Heavyweight Championship, which Rude lost to Hiroshi Hase on March 16, 1994, in Tokyo, Japan. Just 8 days later, Rude reclaimed the title in Kyoto, Japan. He later dropped the championship to Sting on April 17th at Spring Stampede, only to pin Sting again on May 1st, becoming a 3-time champion. Unfortunately though, Rude suffered a back injury during the match when he landed on the corner of the raised ring platform after a suicide dive. Unable to compete, he was stripped of the title, with the storyline explanation that he had used the belt as a weapon during the match. After cashing in on his insurance policy, Rude stayed out of the wrestling scene until January 1997, when he resurfaced in Extreme Championship Wrestling under a mask. Eventually, he revealed himself and transitioned into a role as a color commentator. But in a surprising move, Rude returned to the ring for ECW Heatwave 1997. He teamed up with Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman in a 6-man tag team match against Jerry Lawler, Rob Van Dam, and Sabu. Then, on August 11, 1997, Rude made his return to the WWF as the insurance policy for the group that would eventually become D-Generation X, alongside Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Chyna. During his time with DX, Rude didn't compete in matches, but often accompanied the group at ringside. Shortly after the controversial Montreal Screwjob at Survivor Series, Rude departed WWF once again. His departure was fueled by dissatisfaction over the Montreal Screwjob, leading him to negotiate a deal with WCW. On November 17, 1997, Rude made a historic appearance on both WWF's Raw is War and WCW's Monday Nitro in the same evening. On the live Nitro broadcast, he openly criticized Vince McMahon, Shawn Michaels, DX, and the WWF, dubbing it the Titanic, referencing WWF's parent company, Titan Sports, as a sinking ship. In WCW, Rude joined the New World Order and managed his friend Curt Hennig, initially aligning with the NWO Wolfpack in May 1998. Rude and Hennig quickly switched allegiance to NWO Hollywood at the Great American Bash. However, injuries sidelined both by late 1998, with Hennig recovering from a leg injury and Rude dealing with a health scare initially thought to be testicular cancer, but later diagnosed as a spermatocell. Rude officially departed WCW in April 1999, marking his final appearance on the April 5th, 1999 edition of WCW Monday Nitro Backstage Blast. Just over 2 weeks later, on the morning of April 20th, 1999, Rude was discovered unconscious by his wife. He tragically passed away at the age of 40 due to heart failure. An autopsy revealed that his death was caused by an overdose of mixed medications. It was suggested that gamma-hydroxybutyrate, a drug used to treat narcolepsy, might have played a role in his death. After Rude's passing, Bret Hart said, "Rick Rude was anything but rude. In any circle of friends and phonies, you take the good with the bad, and the bad makes you appreciate the good even more. At the height of my road days, when 300 flights in 300 towns a year was normal, strangers became family and family became strangers. You can't pick your family, but you can pick your friends. Rick Rude was one of the best picks I ever made. He was a great family man. He loved his wife. He was one of those kind of guys who never took his wedding ring off. He put a white piece of tape around it when he went into the ring. He was the kind of guy that when you needed someone to back you up, he wouldn't flinch at all. Not for money, not for anything." In 2017, Ravishing Rick Rude was inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame. May he rest in peace.